I never thought exhaustion could be the beginning of something. But there I was, sitting in Marcus's apartment at 2 a.m, my eyes burning from staring at code for 16 hours straight, and he just looked at me with this concerned expression I'd never seen before and said, "You look tired." Not in the way people usually say it, like an observation or small talk. He said it like it actually mattered to him, like my tiredness was somehow his problem too. We'd been working on this project together for 3 months. He was the design lead, I was the developer, and we'd fallen into this pattern of late-night work sessions that always seemed to stretch longer than they should. I told myself it was because we worked well together, because the project demanded it, because his apartment was closer to the office than mine. All true, but also not the whole truth. "I'm fine," I said, which was obviously a lie. My back ached from hunching over my laptop, my neck was stiff, and I was pretty sure I'd forgotten to eat dinner. Again. Marcus closed his laptop. "No, you're not. Come here." I looked up at him, confused. He was sitting on the couch, and I was at his kitchen table where I'd set up my makeshift workstation. "What?" "Come here," he repeated, patting the couch cushion next to him. "Take a break. You've been at this for hours." I should mention that Marcus is not someone you say no to easily. Not because he's demanding or aggressive, but because he has this quiet certainty about him that makes you trust his judgment. He's one of those people who always seems to know what you need before you do. It's annoying, honestly. Or it was annoying. I'm still figuring out how I feel about it. I saved my work and moved to the couch, sinking into the cushions with a groan I didn't mean to let out. Everything hurt. Marcus shifted, adjusting how he was sitting, and then he said something that made my heart do this weird stuttering thing. "Put your head in my lap. You need to rest for a bit." I froze. "What?" "You heard me. Lie down. Rest. I'm not letting you go back to that code until you've taken at least a 20-minute break." There were so many reasons to say no. We were colleagues. We were friends, sure, but not that kind of friends. It felt too intimate, too vulnerable. But I was so tired, and the couch was so comfortable, and Marcus was looking at me with those dark eyes that always seemed to see right through whatever facade I was putting up. "This is weird," I said, even as I was already shifting position. "It's not weird. You're exhausted. I'm helping. That's what friends do." Friends. Right. That word should have been reassuring. Instead, it felt like a boundary being drawn, a line I shouldn't cross. I lay down anyway, my head settling onto his lap, and immediately I became aware of every point of contact between us. The warmth of his thighs through his jeans, the way my ear pressed against his leg, how I could feel him breathing. "Close your eyes," he said softly. I did. And then his hand was in my hair. I stopped breathing. Just completely forgot how to do it. His fingers moved gently through my hair, not quite a massage, but something close to it, and every nerve in my body lit up like I'd touched an electric fence. But in a good way, in a way that made me want to stay perfectly still so he wouldn't stop. "Is this okay?" he asked, and his voice sounded different, quieter, almost uncertain. I managed to nod. "Yeah, it's nice." The understatement of the century. We stayed like that for a while, him playing with my hair, me trying not to think about how much I liked it. Trying not to think about how I'd been noticing things about Marcus for weeks now. The way he laughed at my stupid jokes. How he always remembered my coffee order. The fact that he'd started texting me things that had nothing to do with work, just random thoughts or funny things he'd seen. I'd been pushing those thoughts away, categorizing them as friendship, as professional camaraderie, as anything other than what they might actually be. But lying there with my head in his lap, his fingers in my hair, I couldn't pretend anymore. "You work too hard," Marcus said eventually. "You're going to burn out." Says the guy who's also here at 2 a.m. "I'm here because you're here. Someone has to make sure you don't work yourself to death." I opened my eyes and tilted my head back to look up at him. From this angle, his face was upside down, but I could still see the expression there. Something soft and worried, and maybe a little bit scared. "You don't have to do that," I said. "I know. I want to." We looked at each other for a long moment, and I felt something shift in the air between us. Like we were both suddenly aware that this was not a normal thing friends did. That there was something else happening here. Something we'd both been carefully not acknowledging. His hand stilled in my hair. Can I tell you something? My mouth went dry. Sure. I look forward to these nights, working with you. I know I shouldn't because we're both exhausted and it's not healthy and we should have better work-life balance. But I look forward to them anyway. I sat up, suddenly needing to see his face properly, needing to understand what he was saying. We were close now, sitting next to each other on the couch, our knees almost touching. Why? I asked. Even though I thought I knew, even though I hoped I knew, Marcus looked at me, and I watched him make a decision. I could see it happen, the moment he chose to be brave. Because I like being around you, more than I should probably, more than is strictly professional or even strictly friendly. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure he could hear it. Marcus, you don't have to say anything. I just needed you to know. I've been trying to figure out how to tell you for weeks, and then tonight, with you working yourself into the ground, I just thought, what's the point of keeping it to myself? Life's too short. We're too tired. I don't want to waste time pretending I don't feel what I feel. I'd imagined this conversation before, in the quiet moments when I let myself admit what I was feeling. But I'd always imagined being the one to bring it up, having some eloquent speech prepared, knowing exactly what to say. Instead, I was sitting here exhausted and overwhelmed and completely unprepared, and all I could think to say was, I like being around you too. He smiled, and it transformed his whole face. Yeah? Yeah. I thought I was being obvious about it, honestly. I'd been finding excuses to work late just so we could spend more time together. I thought I was the one doing that. We both laughed, and it broke the tension, made everything feel less terrifying. He reached out and took my hand, threading his fingers through mine, and it felt as natural as breathing. So, what now? I asked. Now you rest for real, and tomorrow when we're both not half dead from exhaustion, we figure this out. We talk about what this means, but right now, you need sleep. I should go home. You should stay here. Take the bed. I'll take the couch. Marcus, this is your apartment, and you're about to pass out. I'm not letting you drive home like this. Besides, I want you here. He squeezed my hand. Is that okay? I nodded, too tired and too emotionally overwhelmed to argue. He led me to his bedroom, gave me a t-shirt to sleep in, and I was asleep almost before my head hit the pillow. But not before I felt him squeeze my shoulder gently and heard him say, "Sleep well." I woke up 8 hours later to the smell of coffee and the sound of Marcus moving around in the kitchen. For a moment I was disoriented, not sure where I was or why I was in someone else's bed. Then it all came back. The late-night work session, his hand in my hair, the conversation on the couch, the way he'd looked at me when he admitted how he felt. I found him in the kitchen, already dressed, 2 mugs of coffee on the counter. He smiled when he saw me, that same soft smile from last night, and handed me one of the mugs. "How do you sleep?" "Better than I have in weeks." I took a sip of coffee, perfect as always. "You remembered." "I always remember." We stood there in his kitchen, drinking coffee in comfortable silence, and I realized this was what I'd been missing. Not just the romance or the attraction, but this, the easy companionship, the feeling of being known and cared for, the way Marcus looked at me like I was someone worth paying attention to. "We should talk," I said finally, "about last night, about what this means." "We should, but first breakfast. I make excellent scrambled eggs." He did make excellent scrambled eggs. We ate them sitting at his kitchen table, the same table where I'd been working just hours before, and it felt different now. Everything felt different. "I've never done this before," Marcus said as he was clearing the plates. "Told someone I had feelings for them. A guy, I mean. I've dated women. I thought that was what I was supposed to do. But it never felt right. And then I met you, and suddenly I understood what everyone meant when they talked about connection." I set down my coffee mug carefully. "How long have you known that you liked me? Remember that presentation we did together about 6 weeks ago? You were so nervous beforehand, and then you got up there and you were brilliant. You made everyone laugh and you explained all the technical stuff in a way that actually made sense. And I just sat there watching you and thinking, oh no, this is going to be a problem." I remembered that presentation. I remembered Marcus giving me a high five afterward, telling me I'd killed it. I remembered how good his praise had felt, how much I'd wanted to make him proud. "I've known for longer than that," I admitted. "I think I've been halfway in love with you since the first week we started working together. You brought me coffee without asking what I wanted and somehow got it exactly right. And then you did it again the next day, and the day after that. and I realised you'd been paying attention to me. Really paying attention, and that felt like the most incredible thing in the world." "Halfway in love," Marcus repeated softly. "Does that mean there's room for the other half?" I stood up and walked around the table to where he was standing. We were close again, like we'd been on the couch last night, but this time I was the one being brave. "I think we should find out." He cupped my face in his hands, his thumbs brushing my cheekbones, and asked, "Can I kiss you?" I'd imagined our first kiss a dozen different ways, dramatic and passionate, or sweet and gentle, or spontaneous and surprising, but the reality was better than any of my imaginings. It was soft and questioning at first, both of us figuring out how we fit together. Then it deepened, became more certain, and I felt something in my chest loosen and expand all at once. When we finally pulled apart, we were both smiling like idiots. "That was worth the wait," Marcus said. "We've only known each other 3 months. Longest 3 months of my life." We spent the rest of the morning talking about our pasts, our relationships, our families, about what it meant to be two men falling for each other in a world that didn't always make that easy. Marcus told me about growing up in a conservative family, about the expectations placed on him, about the slow process of accepting himself. I told him about coming out in college, about the relationships that hadn't worked out, about the fear I'd carried that maybe I'd never find someone who got me. "I get you," Marcus said. "I see you. All the parts you try to hide from everyone else, the anxiety and the insecurity and the way you use work to avoid dealing with feelings. I see all of it, and I like all of it. Even the parts where I work until 2 in the morning and forget to eat. Especially those parts, because they mean I get to take care of you, make you put your head in my lap, force you to rest." I laughed. "Is that going to be a thing now? You ordering me to take breaks?" "Absolutely. And you're going to order me to do the same when I get too focused on a design and forget the world exists. We're going to take care of each other." It sounded simple when he said it like that. Maybe it could be. We spent the rest of the weekend together, not working, just being. We watched movies and ordered takeout and talked about everything and nothing. We kissed more, learning each other, figuring out what we liked. It felt easy and natural and right in a way nothing else ever had. On Sunday evening, as I was getting ready to leave, Marcus pulled me close and said, "I know we're taking this slow. I know we have to figure out work stuff and how to tell people and all of that. But I need you to know something." "What?" "This is real for me. You're real for me. Whatever happens, however this develops, I'm all in." I kissed him, trying to pour everything I was feeling into it. When I pulled back, I said, "I'm all in too, have been since that first coffee." "The one I got exactly right?" "The one you got exactly right." We texted constantly over the next week. Good morning messages and good night messages and everything in between. Stupid memes and work frustrations and random observations. It felt like being a teenager again, that giddy excitement every time my phone buzzed. At work, we tried to keep things professional. We mostly succeeded, but there were moments when our eyes would meet across the conference room and I'd remember the way he'd held me, the way he'd kissed me, the way he'd told me he saw me, and I'd have to look away before anyone noticed the expression on my face. "You're smiling more," my coworker Jenna said one day. "What's going on?" "Nothing, just having a good week." "Uh-huh. This wouldn't have anything to do with a certain design lead, would it?" I stared at her. "What?" "Oh, please. You two have been making eyes at each other for months. Everyone's noticed. We've been waiting for one of you to make a move." "Everyone's noticed?" "Honey, you're not subtle. Neither is he. But for what it's worth, I think you're good together. He makes you happy. That's obvious." I didn't know what to say to that. Marcus and I hadn't discussed going public yet. We were still figuring things out ourselves. But apparently we'd been more obvious than we thought. I texted Marcus immediately. "Jenna knows. Says everyone knows." His response came quickly. "My team's been making comments too. Want to just own it?" "What does that mean?" "Come to lunch with me. Hold my hand. Let people see." My heart raced. It was one thing to be together in private, another to claim it publicly. But Marcus was right. Why hide something that made us both happy? "Okay, but you're buying." "Always." We went to lunch together that day, and when we walked back to the office, Marcus reached for my hand. Just like that. Natural and easy and right. A few people glanced at us. A couple smiled. No one seemed surprised. "That wasn't so bad," I said when we got back to our floor. "Told you. People are generally cool, and if they're not, that's their problem, not ours." He was right. Over the next few weeks, we got a few comments, mostly positive. A couple of people seemed uncomfortable, but they kept their distance and their opinions to themselves. Our managers called us in to make sure there weren't any conflicts of interest, and we assured them we'd keep things professional at work. And we did. Mostly. But there was something powerful about not having to hide anymore. About being able to smile at each other without worrying who saw. About Marcus bringing me coffee in the morning and everyone knowing exactly what it meant. One night, about a month after that first confession, we were back in Marcus's apartment. Not working this time, just being together. I was lying on the couch with my head in his lap again, his fingers in my hair, and it felt like the most natural thing in the world. "Remember when you first made me do this?" I asked. "And I thought it was weird?" "You were wrong. It's perfect." "Yeah, it really is." He leaned down and kissed my forehead. "You look tired." "I am tired, but the good kind. The kind that comes from living instead of just working." "Good. I like you better when you're living." I tilted my head back to look at him. "I like me better too. You make me want to be better, to take care of myself, to be present." "You make me brave," Marcus said. "I spent so long hiding who I was, what I wanted, and then you came along and made it impossible to hide anymore, made me want to be honest." "I love you," I said, and it was the first time either of us had said it. The words just came out, natural and true. Marcus's eyes widened, then softened. "Yeah? Yeah, I love you. I think I've loved you since that presentation. Maybe before. I love you too. So much. I didn't know I could feel like this about anyone." We stayed there on the couch, wrapped up in each other, and I thought about how strange it was that exhaustion had led to this. That one moment of vulnerability, one concerned, "you look tired," had opened the door to everything else, to honesty and intimacy and love. "Hey Marcus." "Yeah? Thanks for making me rest that night, for taking care of me." "Always. That's the deal now. I take care of you, you take care of me. Best deal I ever made." He laughed and pulled me closer, and I closed my eyes, content and happy and exactly where I was supposed to be. In his lap, in his apartment, in his life. Being seen and known and loved for exactly who I was. Sometimes the best things start with the simplest gestures. A hand in your hair, a soft command to rest. Someone noticing that you're tired and actually caring enough to do something about it. Marcus had seen me that night, really seen me, and in doing so had given me permission to see him back, to see what was possible between us. We had a lot to figure out still. Where this relationship was going, how to balance work and life and love, whether we'd move in together eventually or keep our own spaces, all the practical questions that come with building something real. But right now, in this moment, none of that mattered. What mattered was his hand in my hair, his voice saying my name, the steady rhythm of his breathing. What mattered was that we'd found each other, that we'd been brave enough to admit what we felt, that we'd chosen to build something together. I never thought exhaustion could be the beginning of something, but I was wrong. Sometimes being tired is exactly what you need. It strips away your defenses, makes you vulnerable, forces you to accept help. And sometimes when you let someone take care of you, when you put your head in their lap and let them run their fingers through your hair, you find out that they've been waiting for permission to love you all along.